Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is John the Pelvis Levingood.
Pelvis because I'm known for my hip thrusts.
I just love in this movie. They're like, they call me Elvis Pelvis, man. Like, what kind of crap is that? Like, I just love hearing Kurt Russell angry that people called him Elvis the Pelvis because he does all
Do you
the
think
shaking.
do you think Jean-Claude Van Damme saw this when he was a kid and that's how he came up with his dance in Kickboxer?
That's
There was a lot of very enthusiastic pelvis movement. And even though it wasn't nearly as fast and shifty as Kurt Russell's Elvis or real Elvis, it was really deep, thoughtful strokes of that pelvis.
I, I just think that's his move, Jean Claude. He's got the legs and he's got the hips and he can do the shakes. So I think that's
But
what he
that might
does.
only be his move because he saw this as a kid.
You're right. And he has no upper bother. His upper body rhythm is not there. It's basically clapping.
It's all leaning forward, leaning back, and clapping.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's it.
it's like he leans back while slouching though. He's slouching while leaning back
Yeah.
and then leaning forward. It's kind of like a jazzy thing. Like if you were at a jazz club, you just lean in. You're kind of hunched over because you're so like you're so into it. You're just feeling it. You're leaning towards the music. You're clapping.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what yeah. So that's exactly what he does. If they did a like something remake of Elvis and he was the star, he'd be throwing a lot more kicks though. Elvis's kicks were like karate kicks. Jean-Claude Van Damme throws like spinning roundhouses and like his aren't exactly karate kicks. So it'd be interesting, a lot more splits too.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Who wins in a dance off? Jean-Claude Van Damme from Kickboxer, Kurt Russell, Elvis, John Travolta from
Pulp
Saturday Night
Fiction.
Fever,
Oh, okay.
or let's see, Leslie Nielsen from Dracula Dead and Loving It.
All right. For the time frame of the movie, so I don't want to say time of release because Elvis gets thrown off a little bit. But for the time frame of the movie, I'm actually inclined to say John Travolta.
Yeah, he's walking away with it. You can't.
Because
Oh,
even though
but
we watch it now, though, that was pretty weak for Soul Train, like
yeah,
10 years later. But back then, that was rip roaring.
in that bar, it was amazing. You know what I mean?
Right. And honestly, in a small town bar in Thailand, I think that geographically, Van Damme wins. I think geographically, he was the best guy in five towns dancing that day.
And he probably murdered a couple people.
Right. But not in a major city, only in that little town. In a major city, it falls apart.
Because you need a lot of room for that dancing. Like
Right.
that's the way that he moves. You need a dance floor watching you. You can't be in a packed club. Like
It
Elvis.
needs to be sparse. You
Yeah.
can't have good competitors, good dance competitors who are like, I'm going to go steal those women from you with my dance moves. They're like, no, they were like mesmerized. They were offended and mesmerized. Like, look at this guy. Is that dancing? That's disgusting. I hate this man. But they didn't know what to do. Like, it took them a while to get up and take action.
I mean, that's fair because when you and I are just hanging out in a bar, we're in a tiny, tiny small town, and Jean Claude Van Damme comes in and just starts doing that. Like, just we're gonna be, we're, hey man, you see that?
Then,
Who is
if
this
Kurt
guy?
if Kurt Russell Elvis was doing his moves in that same bar, those men never would have gotten up. They would
No,
just be sitting there with a cigarette hanging out of their mouth, like, what is happening?
everyone loves Elvis too, so they would have been like Elvis, Elvis. John, this movie we're covering every Kurt Russell film, so every 25th episode, 300, 325, 350, 375, 400, etc. We cover a Kurt Russell film. This is a 3 hour long 1979 made for TV, biopic in which Kurt Russell and John Carpenter team up for the first time. And this movie, 3 hours long, 150 locations, was shot in 30 days, which is insane. Like this, like what's interesting about this movie? There's not a lot of coverage. There's a lot of ensemble staging, so like there's no over the shoulders. It's just like people standing in a frame and acting. I, you based on the math, you'd have to be at 5 locations a day, or one location and 4 different locations in that one location. They moved, and so for a 1979 biopic that was released on ABC that was shot in 30 days, this is pretty great.
I'm inclined to agree. Uh,
I did a lot of
this is
quantifying.
this is this was a movie,
Yeah.
boy. So this is the last kind of movie I'd watch were it not for Kurt Russell, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I also it's just this is like not folks, you've listened to the podcast. This is not my kind of movie. It's not, but it was perfectly proficiently made. I enjoyed learning some things about Elvis. I want to reiterate that. Very proficient. Most TV movies in the 80s and even 90s sucked. This is the time that Mark and I grew up watching TV movies, by the way, as kids. TV movies sucked. So this is a very proficiently made movie. Honestly, had I not known that, I don't know if I would have had any reason to suspect it was a TV movie. So that in a way is a big compliment from me, especially since like for me, this is a very milk toast kind of movie. It's
Yeah.
not exciting. I think and my biggest criticism of the movie is really quelled because it was a TV movie in the late 70s. But most of the drama is extremely turned down to like a 3 when I think that most of the drama and his relationships and in dealing with the loss of his mother and just all conflicts that could have happened, him freaking out on his friends and firing all his friends when he was having a bad day and then wanting to rehire him, all this stuff was so much more inflammatory, and they would have wanted to film this so much differently if this was a theatrical film or if this was filmed more recently. This felt like one of those, if you were watching this movie and you were seeing the way these dramatic air quote scenes went down, you'd feel like they're being very generous to the reputation of Elvis.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that was the purpose here. I think that because it was for TV in 1979, they were keeping it very
Safe.
G rated, right? Yes, there are clearly relationship problems, but this is about the most, I don't know how to, not neutral, again, the most child friendly way of showing that a relationship is not working between a married couple. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
There's
well,
no
I guess this isn't working out. Like,
I need my own life. I gotta go on tour again, honey.
I'm just gonna leave. Oh, I guess she had to go lead her own life. Like it was, it's so. But again, the acting was all good. This had a lot of actors. I read Joe Montana
Yeah, just popping up.
in a major role in this. Well, kind of major. There was so many people in this movie. This was a and Kurt Russell with that eye makeup.
Oh gosh, yeah. And you had Shelley Winters, Oscar winner Shelley Winters playing Gladys Presley, and Shelley Winters knew Elvis. And then you had Bing Russell, Kurt Russell's dad, playing his dad in the movie. You had Susan Hubley as Priscilla. They got married in real life, John. Like they met on this set and got married. Elvis. So like there's like big names. Well, you also had Joe Mantegna, Ed Begley Jr. You had a lot of people. Pat Hingle pops up in this, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is stacked. And also, you know what I think? I think Kurt Russell's the reason this movie was able to be filmed in 30 days, because I found the behind the scenes interviews. I found one in 99 when John Travolta, when John Carpenter's just smoking a cigarette being interviewed by this lady who's like clearly out of her league. But he said that like Kurt doesn't do the method acting thing. He just knows the role. So he's like, yeah, a lot of times the man like we did most of these performances in 1-2 days. And he said that Kurt Russell was just like, all right, man, we're on. And then he would go act, and then he would get off. He'd go do a change, go somewhere else, do another performance. He could like move in and out of character. And like I think you need good actors like Shelley Winters and all these people to film this thing in 30 days, which that's no time at all. But you know what's interesting, John? You made a great point. I don't think this purposely left out inflammatory things. Like they never said that Priscilla was 14 when they met. Like they're never like, yeah, this Priscilla Presley's 14 years old. They never said that. They never kind of talked about, they showed him shooting a TV once and like throwing a lamp once and firing his team once. But I think that's as far as you could push it in 1979.
Right. They just left it at, hey, Colonel, I want to let you know I'm interested in your daughter. And if you send her here, I'll make sure she keeps going to school.
They never show high school. Like they kind of do. Like that's a really interesting point, because I think at this point you just can't make and why would you want to, but like you can't make like inflammatory thing. So I think they touched on everything as much as humanly possible as they could to get their ratings, and then moved on.
And they never lied to us. Again, like with the girl, we don't hear
Yeah.
her age. They don't say what kind of school, but you do get the idea. It's like, no, don't worry, her dad. I'll make sure she gets to school. So, like it's not college, I guess.
Yeah. And then she just kind of becomes a prisoner there. But This also falls into another problem, I think, with biopics that I have, where it's like Walk the Line and Ray, and you're telling someone's entire life in 3 hours, in 2 hours. And so you can't hyper focus on anything. It's just scene, 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 scene. Like there wasn't this movie can't stop and it can't like explore anything because it needed to get from Kurt Russell being a little kid, Elvis being a little kid, to when he was like top of the world, dead in his like doing his starting his Vegas performances. So like there's this movie so chopped up into tiny scenes that I had to watch it in like 3 installments, but you could easily watch this movie in 3 installments and not miss anything. Like this could be, you just come back and revisit it. So I think the 3 hours went by quickly, but I do think half of the movie probably could have been cut out without the performances of just Kurt Russell lip syncing for about an hour and a half.
Hmm.
Even though hearing the songs is great, and this guy Ronnie McDowell covered all of them, not Elvis, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, this is I don't know, man. I think this gave Kurt Russell some juice though, because in '79 he wasn't that much of a name, and then he got nominated for like Golden Globes and Emmys for this. So I think this gave him the juice to go do, Escape from New York and The Thing and Big Trouble and kind of Silkwood. Like this is kind of his launching pad, and it's fun to watch.
I want to touch on something that you actually said about the trouble with biopics. And you had mentioned Ray, which is interesting to me. Like I thought that Ray, which I saw when it was brand new in theaters with my father, I thought that Ray was at the time anyway, like, oh, this is like a perfect movie. But I'm intrigued to know like the criticism that you have for that specifically, and how it would and what it would link to other biopics. Like the problem, I agree though, the fast pace and getting all these phases of their life, and some are tumultuous and some are high. It's tough to get that together. But for me and the audience, I guess.
I guess for me, they just all follow the same exact pattern. You have
Mm,
Bohemian Rhapsody. You have a kid. Parents don't want him to do music. Something tragic happens. You know, he goes through some things, highs and lows, drugs, divorces. Music's great, music's not. Ends with a big performance. Walk the Line. Parents don't want to do it. Abusive dad goes through some problems, meets a lady. They have a tumultuous relationship. There's ups and downs. He comes back, does the prison thing, ends on a high note. You have Rocket Man, same thing. You have, even Straight Outta Compton is like 2.5 hours and plays on that. Like I think these movies, these biographical like musical films, they're just a gray young kid, mom overcomes things, becomes a musician, highs and lows, gets a bad manager, gets into drugs. Like they're all they're all just so the template is the same, the
and
editing's
I
the same, the storytelling's the same, and it just like I don't really enjoy that. I don't I enjoy Walk the Line. I liked Ray. Like listen, they earned the listen, and also it's Oscar bait. I mean, Reese Witherspoon won for Walk the Line, Jamie Foxx won for this, Rami Malek won for Bohemian Rhapsody. Like people love these films and they love hearing the music, but it's just for me, it's the same like movie, just different band, and it just gets I don't know. I just don't enjoy it. I really don't.
no,
And so
it's curious that you say that because for me, Walk the Line and oh gosh, why can't I? You just said it. Oh, and Bohemian Rhapsody. I loved the first halves of both those movies. Didn't love the rest. And so the ones that I end up loving, like say Straight Outta Compton, um, I wonder if I just love it because I connect more to the source material and or the actors or execution, like the energy of the music, for example, because I never connected to Johnny Cash's music. Sorry, but
no, I think you're right. And listen, Straight Outta Compton's good, and it made a lot of money. These movies make a lot of money, and so there is a science behind them that works. But it's just I don't know because you got to cover so much time, like
mhm.
so much time. It's like his career, just the 20 years, and then his military time. Then he met her, then his comeback. You just it just never like I guess you can't tell a movie where it's just like a snapshot of a performance, like or one focusing on just one performance because you need to tell the story of the band. But
Mhm.
there's just always I don't know. They always feel rushed. The editing's always the same. There's the highs and lows. There's the parents. I don't know. They always just kind of not lazy because there's such a formula that works. So you should keep doing that formula. But just, just not, I'm just like Maestro. Maestro was good, but it's the same formula. Like even though it looked gorgeous, like I think Get On Up is really good too. But that like that one definitely has some of that. So I don't know. They all just feel the same to me.
You're talking about the army scene, by the way. That was their scenes, that segment of the movie. That was the distinct lull for me, actually, where I felt that the transitions were the least smooth.
Yeah, because it was just jagged. Like it just, oh, I'm here now, man. I don't even know if I'm gonna get back at it, man. I feel like I'm light years away. Like the things pass me by, and they're just, all right, Colonel, you got me. And Colonel's like, yeah, I got you. Like you're good. He's like, okay, cool, cool. Wow, we're good, we're good. So it's, I don't know, like Amadeus is like the story about Mozart, and I think it's brilliant with that one because it's from the eyes of Ephraim Abraham, and so it's done differently. Or like I like Love and Mercy, where you're dealing with Brian Wilson post, like during the Beach Boys era when he's coming up with pet sounds, but he's also being influenced by his manager. And I think I just like it when they're done differently, not just the stock walk the line way. But that
Although,
being,
was this not one of the earlier
oh
movies
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Oh
this?
no, so this led the way, but
So
I guess I'm just
this
so
is like
jaded.
laying down the formula.
No, I agree, and so I mean I guess I can't blame it for that, but it's just there's never really any focus. We never really spend any time with Kurt or with Elvis himself. Like we know, you can watch this, but you never really get into his psyche too much. Like you see him talking to his brother, he loved his mama, that, he was not a good husband, but like they really leave out a lot. So it's more of like a snapshot of his life,
Hmm.
which is fine because it's the 1979 made for TV movie that what got huge views. But I don't know. I just don't like that formula of these biopics. I'll watch them all, but I don't like Bohemian Rhapsody was super smart. And it kind of ended just like this film where they end with that Live Aid performance and you just
Hmm.
leave the theater. You left the theater on a high and you're just flying. And so this one, I think it's a little bit more bittersweet because like, that he's not going to live much longer, but his comeback's going to go well. So it's nice seeing him have this moment. And also Kurt Russell's at his strongest in that scene in Vegas. Like he's incredible during that scene, but it's I guess you leave on a high. I know we're talking about these just annoy me, John. I'm sorry.
Right.
uh
So
I like
on a positive note, you mentioned that the end scene, that scene was really the time that I enjoyed watching the movie most. I don't know why. There's something about the performance that he gives, and maybe it's also Elvis later in being Elvis, so Elvis is being more Elvis that we think of. But
mhm.
he rocked that. That was really fun to watch. He's always fun to watch doing his Elvis dances and performances, but that was, I don't know, it just seemed even more fun
Yeah.
watching Russell rock that out at the end.
And listen, he's incredible. And that's like a really interesting period in his life because he had gone back to Graceland and he had kind of become a hermit and paranoid and had tons of guns and people didn't know if he was going to make a comeback or not, and it was a different era in the 70s. And then all of a sudden he comes back to Vegas and just rocks, and like it was his comeback and it was huge. And then he ended up dying shortly after when he was like 42. Like, I'm older than him than when he
Mhm.
passed away. So it's, yeah, that's like a really interesting era. But since it's a 1979 TV movie, you can't like focus on any of that. Like you can't
Right.
focus on any of the drugs or, I mean, so I think there's some really interesting stuff there. It's kind of interesting when the guy had a really interesting life, but because it's made for TV, you really have to tell the Diet Cola version of it. But it was, I mean, it worked, and Carpenter did a great job. I mean, Carpenter shot this in 30 days. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. So, like, how fast they had to move with union crews. Like, I admire this movie more because of how fast they shot it and like how good it looks and how well the ensemble staging is because they had no time for coverage. So it's technically, I think it's beautiful, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I like a different type of musical biography, I guess.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah. Well, the music, like
That
remember
might be one of my favorites, though.
we knew the music, and
Hmm.
I like Johnny Cash, so like I liked hearing his songs, and like I think I like the idea of Joaquin Phoenix actually singing in that movie. As much as I love Kurt Russell, he's just lip syncing away. He is
Right.
really like, and I love how they do a really good job kind of hiding it, and they kind of do a good job hiding his guitar playing. But I just, whenever a musical song came on, I almost wanted to fast forward it. I didn't. I watched the whole thing, but just watching Kurt up until the end, the final performance was incredible. I could have watched that entire performance with him just channeling Russell, and also too, like, aside from he's a tiny child, like Kurt Russell, I think is playing a young high schooler in this
Hmm.
movie. He's playing a guy in his 20s. He's playing a guy in his late 30s. So it's kind of it's kind of random when he's like, it's Kurt Russell, but he's supposed to be high schooler Kurt Russell, but it's Kurt Russell, but he's still being great.
I think he did all right as a high schooler. His skin just looked so delicate, even though he had the jawline of a boxer.
And
He had
yeah,
his skin looked so, it looked like the most moisturized commercial model I've ever seen.
great hair. He was hunched over really good. Like, I know he definitely played the role well, but there's just so much in this movie. I mean, there's scenes where his parents are going to get kicked out of their house. They're talking about his brother going to heaven. He's going to get beat up in a bathroom. He plays his first record at Sun Records, and then that becomes a hit. And what's nice too about Elvis' parents, they were supportive, at least in this movie. The one nice thing I can say is I feel like in most of these films, the parents are like, "You're never going to make it," or we don't do music, like, even like Walk Hard with Dewey Cox making fun of that.
It's
It was
like
nice.
he almost did. He's like, well, you got to be an electrician. When you're an electrician, the work comes looking for you. You don't want to be a musician. You got to go try and find work. But it was just very matter of fact. He's
Hmm.
like, gee, Dad, that's a good idea. Maybe until this music thing works out, I'll do some hours as an electrician to help out around here. So it was very, you know, it was very the Andy Griffith show, aw shucks
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Like, so they address it, but again, it's as non-antagonistic as it could have been.
Hmm. And then he makes it big, and his dad's like, "Well, this is pretty great. Like, I'm happy for you." But like, there's so much. Like, he's like, I got 200, I get 2,000 a week. Mom buys her a car. Then he has to go to Sun Records, but then he goes to RCA, and then he overworks himself and he passes out. And then like they call him Elvis the
Mm-hmm.
Pelvis, and then he buys Graceland, and then he destroys cameras, and then he wants to be an actor. Like, there's just a lot in this movie. But I mean, they paid Priscilla Presley thousands of dollars to go over the script and look for inaccuracies. So I mean, you have Shelley Winters, who knew Elvis. You had, Kurt Russell, who acted with Elvis. Like, Kurt Russell kicked Elvis in the shin in the 60s, which is kind of amazing. And what is it? I got the movie right here.
Graceland.
No, it happened at the World's Fair. He's
Oh,
the boy who kicks Elvis, Kurt
oh,
Russell. So,
I thought you were trying to think of the third Elvis connection.
oh yeah, yeah, he kicks him right in there. Kicks him in the shin. So Kurt Russell had known Elvis since '63. Carpenter liked Elvis. So, I mean, but I think you're right. It doesn't lie. It just doesn't. He's exhausted. He does party. There might be other girls. You introduce other girls in scenes, but it's not like, this is the interesting one, John. But yeah, once again, it's just watching our boy Kurt Russell. This is a different type of him, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is a him before I think he had found his him.
Yeah. So he's playing Elvis. How do you think he is as Elvis?
So I was never, well, I'm not old enough to have truly been an Elvis fan, but I was never really an Elvis fan or like a fan. I never really watched any of the classic movies. I've just seen clips. Of course, we've grown up with Elvis impersonations and clips. So I'm inclined to say pretty damn good based on what I know in pop culture. But that's all I've got, kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
And actually, when I think of the clips that I've seen of Elvis doing his moves, I actually think that Kurt Russell looks better doing them. Like they were a little more audience. By the way, I'm a little sick. If you hear this coughing happening, that's me being a little sick. But his motions literally seem more rehearsed, even if still chaotic, than Elvis's. Like everything looks better when he does the chaotic Elvis kicks. When he's still rocking the mic around and holding the guitar, it looks cleaner than Elvis ever did.
I mean,
Um,
Russell is an athlete. He did play baseball. Do you think his athletic background helped him out a little bit?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he just enjoyed doing it his way, but it's almost like, were you trying to do it the way that you wanted to do it, or were you trying to look like Elvis doing it? Because Elvis would have been just a little funkier, I feel. Not that Elvis didn't look good in his own way doing it. There was just more of an entropy to Elvis when he was moving on that stage. Like earlier, Russell was being kind of chaotic when he was kind of scuttling around, still trying to find the moves. But like I want to say, like halfway through the movie and into the final scenes, it seemed really crisp.
Hmm.
A
You know what's
crispness that I don't feel like I've seen in Elvis clips.
you know what I think it could be is Kurt Russell's not a method actor. I don't think, if Daniel Day-Lewis played Elvis, he would probably study Elvis's exact movements and kind of mimic them on screen. I feel like Kurt Russell more embodies the character and then does his own thing while playing Elvis. Like he's not trying to mimic Elvis. He's playing
Mm.
Elvis, but he's not trying to mimic
Okay,
him.
yeah. Whereas
And
Daniel Day-Lewis would hear that during this performance, Elvis had a hurt knee, so he'd rack his knee against a cinder block, so he had a limp, and then
yeah, exactly. Okay, so he does a kick, but when he does it, it's 45 degrees, and like he's a little clunky here. Like there's mimicry. So I think Kurt Russell's like, okay, I got the posture, I got the the look down, and then he kind of just Kurt Russell's it as Elvis because he's not about that. I don't think he's going to study, and I don't think they had time to study that tape. So I think he just had to go for it and just be more lithe on stage than actual Elvis. But he was also kind of younger too. How I mean, Kurt Russell, how old was Kurt Russell when he made this movie? So Kurt Russell was, do you want to take a guess, John?
oh boy, he's like 76 now, isn't he?
That's pretty close. 73. So he was like 28 when he made this movie. Still moving
Not
pretty
a
good.
bad age. He was playing 10 years younger and 10 years older, plus or minus 10.
This movie's kind of tough to talk about, John, because it's
Remember, wait, but remember in American History X when Edward Norton, with his already slightly receding hairline and long and shaggy fake hair, has a backwards hat, and he's supposed to be a 13-year-old at the beginning of the
oh
movie.
yeah. Oh, Edward
Look up,
Norton.
folks, look up American History X, Edward Norton, 13-year-old. I'll bet you're going to find some interesting pictures.
Like Primal Fear, Ed Norton could look a lot younger, but not American History X, Edward Norton, looking 13. That guy had a hell of a run in the 90s,
Wait, he
John.
didn't look 13. He looked 30.
He looked like Steve Buscemi when he's trying to do the cool kids thing. You know that thing of him where he has like the skateboard.
Yeah,
That's Edward Norton.
what is up, kids? Who
Yeah,
wants to go smoke some drugs? Edward Norton looks older when he's playing a 13-year-old than he does as adult Edward Norton in that movie.
wait, is this a flash forward? Is this older Ed Norton?
Right? It's I'm not kidding, folks. If you look this up, you're gonna find some troubling pictures.
So I know I haven't been fully able to like articulate my thoughts about this movie, but I also think it's kind of hard because it's Elvis, but it's a watered down Elvis. So we're really not learning anything, and we can't really begrudge. Well, we're learning things, but we can't really begrudge it because it's a 1979 made for TV movie for ABC. So it can't go hard on anything. It
It's
leaves
it's
out a
it's
lot.
it's dueling with a baited blade, is what it is. It can't cut when it wants to cut.
Yeah, and it just can't. So it's really interesting though. Whenever I do find it interesting that when Carpenter tries to go like he attempted to go mainstream or not mainstream, not like horror in this film, but I like that he still picked music because he has such a music background. So I kind of like that he took his shot at mainstream by like less horror-ish cinema by covering Elvis, which makes sense because he's probably comfortable in that music world because he's such like he loves his own music.
I
So
mean,
he
and
did,
this is where he discovered his Kurt Russell muse.
yeah. And then they went on to do, we've talked about all these, The Thing, Big Trouble, Escape, the two escapes. I love it. And then Elvis went on for like a big career as Elvis. What, like he did the voice in what, Forrest Gump, 3,000 Miles to Graceland. He, and then what, Forrest Gump. And then he also kicked Elvis. And then he also basically plays Elvis in the Santa Claus movies that he's in. So it set the
Basically
tone.
plays Elvis.
Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? When he gets those
I,
big music numbers going.
I didn't see this movie.
Oh, that's
No,
Christmas Chronicles.
I'm sure we're gonna podcast about it at some point. So at the very least, that's when I'll watch it.
Where would you rank this performance in like in his career? Like in the, like, is this a top tier performance? Is this middle tier performance? Bottom tier? Like where would you put this?
It's really impressive for how early he is in his career. But overall, I'm inclined to put it lower. I think that he wasn't, I think that all the challenge he faced was impersonating Elvis
Mm-hmm.
and the sounds of Elvis, but not necessarily the acting. I feel like the acting was easy. It was never dramatic. It was never truly very emotional. So this was him barely cutting his teeth. It was all about the impressions and dealing with the diversity of scenes and people. And while I think he did again a very good job under the circumstances, I don't think he was challenged here.
No, and they had to move so fast that he just had. I don't think they wanted that from him, right? They just wanted him like, listen, we got 150 locations in 30 days.
This is made for TV. Just
Yeah,
make it work.
give me your best one or two takes. Let's get the heck out of here. And so, John, I have a question for you. When it comes to films like biographical films where a character is playing a real world character, do you think that there should be a separate Academy Awards like bracket for that? So it's like
Hmm.
Daniel Day Lewis plays Lincoln, right? Great performance. But I mean, sometimes I love it when an actor inhabits a new character, like a fictional character who's not. I'm trying to think of like a really good role here, like John McClane from Die Hard,
Bill the
or
Butcher.
Bill yeah, exactly. Like as much as I love Johnny Cash, the movie Ray, Walk the Line, like all these films, there's like an ounce of like mimicry to them. So you're basically playing someone else. I feel like that should be a separate category for that. Like if you're doing that, that should be a separate like best performance as somebody. Whereas there's some performances that are like totally original. Like who cares? Like Escape from New York. I know he's doing Clint Eastwood, but he's great in that movie. Big Trouble in Little China. That's such an incredible character that he plays. And like I think they have to take it and make it something new and like make that character pop off the screen because you don't have like the familiarity with them already. So I think, John, if I was in charge of the Academy Awards, I would do another category where it's like they played somebody.
Not going to have a lot of competition each year on that.
That's fine. Because I feel like it always wins. It's like, who's going to win? Rami Malek. Who's going to win? Jamie Foxx. Like, who's going to win? Like, I feel like those are the performances that typically take it. And just do a combined one. Like, men and women, best performance as somebody else, as a real character. Because it seems like a differently calibrated performance than like a real life, like, Oppenheimer. That's actually a pretty great role, but that should be in the category. Is that not something you would want?
I okay, I'm a fan of adding more subcategories to the Oscars first off. But if we start splitting hairs, we also need to split in the other direction. What about Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Ryan Reynolds, who basically play themselves in every movie? But Al Pacino and Robert De Niro are still winning Oscars for things, even though they were playing themselves before the Oscar winning role and after the Oscar winning role.
So best performance as themselves.
Right. Like there's so many actors who are
Like
essentially being hired.
Dwayne Johnson.
Hugh Grant, who I think is an outstanding actor, by the way, but Hugh Grant. There are so many people who are being hired to be Hugh Grant, but this is your character. Your character is a bereaved widower who finds love, right?
But you're
Okay, well, that's
secretly
the
Hugh Grant.
acting, right? But you're Hugh Grant. You're Hugh Grant. You own a little bookstore, but for some reason you're as charming as Hugh Grant. You you know.
Now, quick
So I
question.
mean,
What
there's
about
that
if
too.
Ryan Reynolds plays an actual character? Like Ryan Reynolds plays Lincoln and he's really good. So
I'm in.
he should
I'm,
only
I'm
be he shouldn't be nominated for himself in that one, right? He should be nominated another character. Like as another thing.
mhm.
Does
Right.
that make sense? It's like
Yeah.
like
Because then again you're character acting instead of being yourself acting. And I look, I love Ryan Reynolds. I love Robert De Niro, and I love them for what they bring to movies. They're playing a certain kind of character, and that character is very much like them. But again, Ryan Reynolds, his like major acting was a lot of his minor movies that most people don't know about, like The Nines.
yeah,
If someone out there is
the
a Ryan
voices.
Reynolds fan, go watch The Nines. You're gonna see him like trying to act his pants off back then. Like
So,
instead of just having fun and being extremely likable and natural and sincere on screen. So again, it's just different stuff.
wait, can
But
we talk about this? Like, so Ryan Reynolds, I would say Buried. is like a pretty intense performance. That's not
Mm-hmm.
totally Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
I would say The Voices.
Mm-hmm. That's a little Reynolds actually, but still the closer. Amityville.
What about Free Guy? He's much more earnest in that one.
I'm inclined to agree. It's a little Reynolds flavored, but yeah, that's a little more playing the straight guy in the surrounding comedy kind of role.
So it's he has about four of those where he's not Ryan Reynolds. What about Kurt Russell? So like Kurt
Yes.
Russell, okay, so the Furious movies he's himself, which makes sense.
Overboard. Captain Ron, he's his drunk self.
Yeah. Like when is he not when has he played a character? Escape
Soldier.
Soldier. What do you think about Escape from New York? I think The Thing,
Sure.
maybe. Big Trouble,
I,
definitely.
Big Trouble just strikes me as him on Quaaludes or something. Well, not
What
Quaaludes, but him like high.
about
I
Backdraft?
serious, right? Serious. But the things his serious roles all have a similarity though.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, Soldier, Backdraft, not Escape from New York, because in that he's the snarky anti-hero, whereas in Backdraft and like Soldier, it's very dire all the time, and like and Breakdown, dire, desperate, just not the hero in that, the true classic hero in that case, right? um I don't know what to make it. Tequila Sunrise, that's some serious
That's
acting
Slick
for
Russell,
him.
though. Like, didn't we come up with this one? There's like Slick
I guess so,
Russell,
but
there's
it's like,
Serious Russell.
but there's Slick Russell and then there's Ultra Slick Russell. That's like Ultra Slick Russell, because Slick Russell is Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, that's
But
super.
he's just himself in a suit with a higher income, like
Like Miracle is just Cop Russell, or no, Dark Blue is Cop Russell.
Miracle though. That was some special acting.
Yeah, some Herb
That was
Brooks.
that was very out of his character categories, if you will. Like that one really stands out. Just like this movie, Elvis really stands out. Um,
What are the five Kurt Russell performances where you think he played a character and not Kurt Russell? So if you had to rank them, even if some of them feature a little bit of Russie in there, like what are the top five where
well,
he
I
went
mean, there
for
might
it?
only be five.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I mean, you got Miracle, you got Elvis, you've got Backdraft. Not necessarily in this order.
Stupid question. Do you think we could put used cars in there because that was like the first time he did that?
That's interesting. Maybe, and also as silly as Big Trouble in Little China was, this is just college silly, Animal House kind of silly, and he just owned that. That just felt, you didn't think he was acting at all in a way. Like he was just, that was just him.
Yeah. So
Even though later it seems like that was a natural early evolutionary step that led him to Overboard and Big Trouble in Little China. But yeah, you're right. That was his first time doing that. So at the time, that might have been it. And even if they just said, dude, just let loose and be you and have 4 shots before we film, you still got to be comfortable doing that on screen. So that I think that qualifies.
I think Silkwood could get added in because it's only gold. His is only Golden Globe nominated performance, and he's a
I'd say that
supporting. It's very real. Like Silkwood is very real, and so
I don't
he
even know
plays.
Silkwood, by the way.
Yeah, so that's like his only big nomination for acting as far as like movies go, and so he plays like the boyfriend in it, and but it's like a real like reality based film. So he's kind of like he's not dialed up. He's not Slick Russell. He's more like real world Russell, and he doesn't play real world Russell in too many movies. Does that like because it's very grounded. It's a prestige film. He hasn't been in really many prestige films. This guy, so I think maybe that one.
I think the same way you bring up used cars, I'd say The Thing. And The Thing is his most dire
Yeah,
role.
yeah, because he does not smile much in that movie.
He's channeling a true hopelessness in that at the end.
So I think we got five. I think that's good. He has a lot of other movies here, though. I don't know if I want to do any of his like television shows. We might have to if we run out of stuff.
I still think we got a good ways to go.
Yeah, we got. Let's see. All right, what do we have left, John? We have.
Well, the Christmas movie that I haven't seen.
So we have the Christmas movies. There's two of them that you haven't seen. We haven't really talked about Fast and Furious, but these aren't really his movies, though. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's not really a Kurt Russell film. He's in it. Are we
No.
like?
Death Proof, we still need to
Oh
do.
yeah, we need to cover that.
And I
Uh,
don't even know Silkwood. We got to do that.
Deepwater Horizon.
Oh yeah, that. The computer that wore tennis shoes.
Yep, he's a star of that. And Art of the Steel and Touchback, we haven't covered.
Mm-hmm.
Dreamer, we haven't covered. Silkwood, and then there's the rom com with Goldie, which is the oh yeah, we need to do the Mean Season, his other football movie, and we need to do Swing Shift, his Goldie
Wait,
Hawn rom
when
com.
you say the rom com with Goldie, did you mean Overboard? Did
No,
we do Overboard?
no, Swing Shift.
No,
It's
but did we do Overboard? I
no, we've
swear to
never.
God,
You
I
know
don't.
what? We've never done Overboard. Oh
Because
yeah, we
we've
got.
talked about it enough times off the show.
We're up to episode 1,000 already, so we're good to go. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
actually,
we're
no.
good.
Oh, we haven't done Sky High either. Now, that's not really a Kurt Russell film, but he plays a big role in it.
He does. I'll watch it if I have to.
Or should we
I've
just
seen
do
it. I mean,
Kurt Russell, like Stargate? He's not really the star of that, right? Isn't he's one of the stars? He's like a co-lead.
he is a star in that. He's a
Okay.
star in Stargate. It's just that it's like James Spader's movie, but Kurt Russell has simultaneously the most intense roles and the most heroic roles. Even though James Spader saves the day on in a lot of scenes, dude, Kurt Russell is sacrificing himself in the end. He's almost ending his life in the beginning. Like he gets the gravitas.
That's fair. That's fair. Because yeah, when I think about Stargate, I think about Kurt Russell pretty much. I don't think about Head Tilt, James Spader.
I mean, I do also think about James Spader, but probably but also because I like Kurt Russell, but I think of Kurt Russell.
Stupid question. Like he kicked off his career with like he had been acting since the 60s. So he'd been in a lot of movies before that. But I mean, with Used Cars, Elvis, Used Cars, Escape from New York, The Thing, Silkwood, and like, major acting wise and performances, he's nominated for a Golden Globe in his like fourth year of acting. So he he had the potential to be it, because he started off with some pretty like some classic films. When do you think he kind of like settled into where he is now? Like he's a big name actor, but he's not like a marquee guy.
He's not a marquee guy until anyone sits down to watch Tombstone.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. But I feel, what's interesting about him is like I mean, that's a really hot streak though. So Elvis, Used Cars, Escape from New York, The Thing, Silkwood, like, and he gets nominated for an award. A lot of people get nominated. That's a good run right there in 4 years. And like I think in those roles, they're totally different too. He played Elvis. He played like a really frat dude. He played a surly dude in The Thing and like a romantic interest in Silkwood. And Escape from New York, he's basically Clint Eastwood. So like there's a lot of variety in those first 4 years. But I just think it's kind of interesting that he kind of went on to become Kurt Russell. Like, does that, am I making sense here? Like, he had a really strong run in the
You
beginning.
are, but I mean, he did have some punctuated points of taking interesting risks. Because like,
Yeah.
not that Tombstone was risky, but that's a tough thing to pull off. Miracle, Bone Tomahawk,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's not like he didn't take and Breakdown, even though that's a simpler thriller on paper. I think it came out a lot better than people thought it would look on paper. By the way, Breakdown is such a simple plot. I feel like Breakdown, you take almost that identical script. We've seen that movie 89 times, except one time it was Billy Zane on a Showtime movie that showed at 3 in the morning with 3 sex scenes. You know what I'm talking about? That came out in like 1993 kind of movie. Or another Breakdown starred Lorenzo Lamas, and it was a straight to USA Network TV movie where that cut to commercial before things got hot and heavy while the woman was still in lingerie, right? Or some, sexually aggressive thing with a criminal. Like, I feel like this movie has been made 1,000 times. This is just the time that we gave a shit because it was done well.
No, I agree.
But but again, that on paper, that looks like a totally basic thriller movie of the week that you would normally, have a couple sex scenes, be an empty movie. But he chose that, and maybe it was because the other people cast in it or something, and they made that work. So he's got he takes, it's like every 3 or 4 years he picks an interesting, riskier thing, it seems.
And I was just looking through his filmography. He had a rough stretch. So in '98, he had Soldier, and then he had 3,000 Miles to Graceland. Both didn't do too well. Then he had Vanilla Sky, Dark Blue, which didn't do too well. He rebounded with Miracle. But then he jumped into Sky High, which he's like a side character in that. But he had Dreamer, then he had Poseidon, those weren't like a hot years for him. Then he did Death Proof, which was pretty good. Death Proof kind of put him back into consciousness. But then he followed that up with like Touchback, The Art of the Steal, and The Battered Bastards of Baseball. It's like he's had like he's always found a way to get like a rebound role to take him back into like the public consciousness, if that makes sense. Like he's if he has a couple flops, like he'll do Captain Ron, but then he'll do Tombstone. He'll do Stargate and an Executive Decision. Those don't do well, but then he'll go do Breakdown. Like he it's an interesting thing where he can always sort of rebound with his movies and kind of come back and be back in the public's consciousness, which is kind of interesting for him as an actor. Like the guy, he's been at it since 63, which is insane, or 62 actually in TV. So he's been at it, well, geez, he's what, 38, 58, 62 years?
I mean, if he was acting since he was like a preteen,
Yeah,
sure. 12,
that's
13.
that's crazy. So he definitely knows the industry. So maybe he just doesn't care.
And most
Maybe,
of the movies, it feels like he's doing what he wants to do.
yeah. And I guess he was kind of difficult to work with. Remember when we were talking about Backdraft, how he's like very opinionated and he flies everywhere with Tom Cruise? I think he's just I don't know, he's just had an interesting career. But I do okay, John, do you think that his best run happened between 79 and 83? Elvis, Used Cars, Escape from New York, The Thing, Silkwood, which is his only acting nomination. Big acting nomination.
Okay, I'd need to look at what was plus or minus one or 2 years from Captain Ron and Tombstone.
Okay, let's see. So in 89, so okay, I'll just start here. 88.
Those are like 93, 94, I think.
So in 92, he did Unlawful Entry,
Ooh.
Captain Ron, Tombstone, Stargate, Executive Decision, Escape from LA, Breakdown, Soldier, in those like 5 years. But if you go backwards, you have Winter People, Tango and Cash, Backdraft, Unlawful Entry, Captain Ron, Tombstone.
I think those two time frame, or the first one and the early in his 79 to 82 are maybe kind of comparable.
Yeah, because he had some all-time classics.
I'm also saying that having not seen Silkwood, I don't know anything. So it's almost like you didn't say Silkwood. I don't know what that is. I don't know if he's good or bad, if I love him or hate him in it. Well, probably I'm not going to hate him in it because it's Kurt Russell. But I don't know anything about that one. So that's tough for me to discuss.
So this drama is based on a true story of Karen Silkwood, Meryl Streep, who works at a nuclear facility, along with her boyfriend, Kurt Russell, and their roommate, Cher. When Karen becomes concerned about safety practices at the plant, she begins raising awareness of violations that could put workers at risk. Intent on continuing her investigation, Karen discovers a suspicious development. She has been exposed to high levels of radiation. So it's a
dun.
Yeah, it's a Meryl Streep movie, but it was nominated for 5 Oscars. So I think it was nominated for, let's see, Best Actress, Best Actress in a Supporting Role, Best Director, Best Writing, and Best Editing. And then he got a Golden Globe nomination. Nora Ephron wrote it, who wrote When Harry Met Sally.
Occurs to me, did Kurt Russell not get an Academy Award nomination for Miracle?
No, which is crazy.
Okay, I don't want to stress myself out, so I'm not going to go look up what did get nominations that year. But that's an outstanding inspirational. Did we do that one? I don't even remember.
Yeah, we recently.
We did.
Yeah,
recently.
I mean, 100 episodes, 50 episodes, maybe
2 years ago.
Yeah, okay. In Kurt Russell years. Yeah. No, but we talked. That was a good conversation. We had a great talk about that one. That's a good movie. That's an interesting movie to talk about. I had a lot of fun with that one.
You're right. That's not even 100. We did that on episode 525 and a year ago, like literally a year, 13 months ago.
Well, John,
episode 525, people, I was fantastic. Please listen. I just don't remember it.
John brought it. But I mean, I know this episode started off rough with me talking about biography of films and all that, but
keeping it real, Mark.
This one's tough to talk about, John, because there's no meat on it. So I did write some notes. They taped Kurt Russell's ears down while doing this. He was promised the job, but then they almost cast a guy who looked like Elvis, not him. Then he got it. Kurt Russell hates to cry. There's a scene where his dad's crying and he has to cry and he hates doing it. They had 1 or 2 days to do all the concert stuff. Kurt Russell can't sing. He's a terrible singer, so he had to lip sync it all. And yeah, that was it. That was the behind the scenes stuff I
Okay,
learned.
ready? This is unprecedented. So, listeners, I'm about to hold up my notes to the camera for Mark to see all of my notes for this movie. Do you see it? Do you see it, Mark?
Mhm.
I all I
Elvis.
wrote was Elvis, and then in the beginning of the movie when it said 1969, I wrote 1969. I never wrote anything else.
All right, let's see. Here's some of my notes. I wrote extra mayo, shoots a
Dude, was that
TV.
just a mayonnaise sandwich?
Yeah. Beat up in a bathroom. Shep goes to heaven. I put family is supportive. He just goes off. Colonel, I put 2000 a week. Loyal. Let's see. He collapses. 172-pound sausage. Elvis the pelvis. Vulgar. He has too much energy. I wanted to do a dramatic film. 150 locations because I was reading notes while watching it. Let's see. 25 million records he sold by the time he went to Germany. You know what I love most about this movie? I feel like whenever the entire film, he's like, "You all right, mama? What's going on, mama? What's the matter with you, mama?" And she's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And then she passes away. Lots of song numbers. She's just a child. Really good lawyer. Gives a little girl a necklace. Pie fight. Life of her own. And that's about it. Talk to mama. That's what I have.
I normally comment that I wrote almost nothing if I have one page of notes that isn't like two lines of writing per line on the paper. Like I this is one of those things where it's like nothing was there were I felt like there were no notes to take.
No. Well, there's no subtext. And
Right.
there's no really funny moments. There's no, hey, like Mark, what happened in that scene? You're like, or what do you think about this? Like, do you like his hair? Like, there's no allegories, there's no metaphors, there's no twists, there's nothing explicit. You can just watch it, and that's it. That's fine. It's an odd one. It makes my life easy though, because I could like work out during it, not have to worry about taking notes every second. But
Whereas
hey,
we haven't there's not a lot of coverage of movies, films, and flicks of dated or undated television movies.
oh man. Well, John, where can people find you, man, before we get out of here?
You Google John's Horror Corner, you'll find me all over, including a little tab at the top of the screen in movies, films, and flicks.com.
And what Kurt Russell movie are we doing next?
I don't think we've picked yet, actually.
Death
But I
Proof?
mean, we could do Death Proof. We are also getting dangerously close to the holidays, but this timing, I don't know if it'll work this year for that. So Death Proof would work. I'd say Death Proof or Silkwood, just because I don't even know what that is.
Will you pick?
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna pick Death Proof because I want to come back to something a little more energized
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for people who enjoy the every 25th Kurt Russell episode.
This one was kind of a bummer, John, because I had no idea what to really. We had to do it, and it's an important film in his filmography.
Look, this is a public service we are providing.
That's
So
right.
if there are people who've discovered Kurt Russell because of movies, films, and flicks.com, and God bless you, you are so graced universally and cosmically for that if you didn't already know Kurt Russell. But then you're going to think, oh, what else has Kurt Russell done? I need to go back in his filmography. And at some point, we need to be there to be like, let's pump the brakes. Let's make sure that you want to do this. Are you just being a completist? Because this is where you might pump the brakes.
We're doing this for you, y'all. Should people
Right.
watch this movie?
Should. Again, if you have
Our
watched
completist.
if you have watched over 20 Kurt Russell movies where he is the star, so not a Fast and Furious movie, not Sky High, then yeah, if you think that you want to fill out your Yahtzee card, okay, go ahead. I'd pick this for a lazy Sunday afternoon where you're going to watch a movie afterwards that's a little more energized. But if that's not you, I'd say skip this and just sleep peacefully knowing that he did a good job.
Yeah, watch Bubba Hotep instead.
Oh, we haven't done Bubba Hotep.
Nope. We should do an Elvis series. Well, because we've done a decent amount of Elvis films. Bubba Hotep's great. The commentary is hilarious, where he's Elvis watching Bruce Campbell play Elvis. It's hilarious. All right, John. Well, hey, thank you for joining me, man.
Yep.
All
Good
right,
time.
so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Lovingood, this is Movie Stones and Flicks. We'll see you next week.